Hey guys, welcome to A Case for Health. I'm Delia here with my buddy Doug, and we are just getting into some raw, real discussions. I'm a mama who's a health biohacker, just eager to learn. Doug has some amazing history in the natural understanding of digging into health, and we're just curious on figuring this whole thing out. We're making a case for health, so we're just getting into the discussion right now. Feel free to join us.
Excellent.
So, hey
Excellent.
Doug, what's going on? What are we going to get into today?
So you were just telling me a couple minutes ago that you had gone to buy a nebulizer and the links to the products are being taken down, and it seems that the powers that be are trying to keep us from purchasing nebulizers. Like, not only are we seeing a combat on natural health products, but I don't get it. Like that, you kind of got my mind blown a little bit here this morning in regards to that. It just doesn't make sense. So
Oh,
tell me the story. Tell me the story of what you experienced.
oh, I get it. I've been hanging around you. I get it.
Yeah.
So we were talking about nebulizing silver, how powerful that is. And I had been using silver for a while, but just taking it orally. But I had never nebulized because I didn't own a nebulizer. And it seemed like this big clunky contraption that, like, I don't want to deal with it. I'm healthy. I have no reason to use it. So I never dabbled. But the week before Christmas this past year, I found myself feeling normal, but all of a sudden I couldn't smell or taste anything. So,
Let's stay away from the word behind that,
yes. So
because we all know what
I
it is.
take
But if
from
we
that
want to
what
keep
you
our
will.
if we want to keep our channel alive, we'll stay away from that five-letter
Exactly.
word with a number behind it.
Yeah.
Um, but
So
you
again, there's no confirmed, but take with that what you will. We're going to be cryptic here for obvious reasons, but so I was like, well, I was taking the silver orally and I felt great. I actually had amazing energy, but I still couldn't taste my food, and I wanted to taste my food after like 2-3 days. And so I hit up Doug. I was like, Doug, how do I, or no, before that, because we were just starting to get to know each other. So I was like, I don't want to like bug Doug over this. Let me try and figure it out. So I was searching how to nebulize silver. Like, I wanted to figure out the ratio, and, I wanted to do it right. And so as I was going on this journey of how to nebulize silver, like, I was finding that a lot of the websites that give clear instructions how to do it, like, all their links were taken down. Like, I would click on a video and it's like, oh, doesn't exist anymore, sorry. And then I finally had found Ben Greenfield's video, and it was an amazing tutorial. And so therefore he had a link on the nebulizer that he uses, which I wanted a trusted source. And so I just went with his nebulizer and I clicked on it, purchased it. And then literally, like, my brother wanted to buy the same one 2 days later, and that whole, like, company was gone. I couldn't find them on Amazon. And even in my history of purchases on Amazon, like, it just didn't exist. I would click on like where that order had been, and it would just show like that error, a little dog saying, oops, we're sorry, this is no longer here. We don't know what the problem is. So it was just bizarre seeing, like, after, well, it was bizarre, but it made sense after I experienced what nebulizing silver did. And so I didn't explain that yet. And so what happened was I finally received my nebulizer, and I finally hit up Doug. I was like, all right, Doug, how do I, what's the ratios for this? I want to do it right. And so you told me kind of that 50-50 ratio, or 100% if we wanted to. So I went with the 50-50 ratio with distilled water, because the quality of water you use is important too. And literally that same day, so I went from not having any taste, any smell, and I nebulized. I did it every hour. And on that second time of nebulizing, so pretty much within that hour, my taste came back, like that. So that blew my mind.
oh
And
yeah.
that kind of made a little bit more sense as to why some of the stuff has gone missing, and there's like, it's hard to find and hard to understand, and stuff is getting shut down as a result. I don't know. So what do you think of this, Doug? Like, I'm newer into this, but it kind of blows my mind to experience something so powerful yet so hidden.
I've been seeing, because I do a lot of research online as I'm looking at natural products, natural product companies, how they do their marketing, what they're doing in their marketing, where they're basing their science on, the articles that they reference, in what they say on their websites. And it's been crazy over the last year, especially at the amount of content that's been removed online. And, if we look at the databases like PubMed and National Institute of Health and Johns Hopkins Society and those ResearchGate, there's so many of these online platforms that doctors and research foundations have been posting information for years and years and years. And just to clarify for a second, there's a big difference between what the FDA classifies as submissible research and what science classifies as submissible research. So for instance, because this is just good information for people to know. So the information on those sites that, if you go look at the benefits, or if you look at scientific studies on certain botanicals or natural herbs or whatever you're looking for, those are all done, they're third-party lab tested, they're scientifically peer-reviewed journals, the information is completely legitimate. But unless, if you're looking at referencing that for a health supplement, unless it's actually done through the FDA's way of doing things, that information actually isn't submissible into being used as a health product. So a lot of people that promote natural health product companies or natural health products will reference those findings in those studies, thinking that they're doing the right thing by linking it to a peer-reviewed journal. But the FDA can still come down on those companies because it wasn't done under their mandate processes. So just an interesting aspect that people don't understand, that breakage between the science, the studies, and then how it's submitted. So back to that for a second, is whether it's an FDA article, whether it's a peer-reviewed scientific journal, when it comes to looking up that information, it's interesting to see how much that information is getting removed. And I'm talking thousands and thousands of peer-reviewed medical journals that are just vanishing, right? And these journals, this research, this has been happening in a proper scientific method for many years now, but now that it's kind of deteriorating from the quote unquote mandated message that we're all hearing, all of that information doesn't play with the narrative for today, so they're trying to make it go away. And it's just interesting how we are being played, let's say, with our health and wellness as to what a agenda is telling us we need to take, we need to do, we need to live by, which is what we were talking about in episodes past. It's all foreign chemicals. It's all the things that you and I, as we're trying to explore our natural wellness, are trying to understand and stay away from.
Yeah.
I still lost for words on a nebulizer. Like what's next? We can't diffuse essential oils, right? Like look up essential oils and see the features and benefits essential oils have, right? And there's very, very large companies right now that do wonders for people, with aromatic essential oils. So if they don't like diffusers, are they going to get, or nebulizers, are they going to start squishing diffusers on us now? Like it's like they're trying to destroy any process of us actually properly taking care of our body naturally. And we know why. It's because these big organizations can't patent uh, natural botanicals. So it's a money game. We can go down that rabbit hole one day really big.
I know it's already, this is our second recording and it's like, we're already going right in. Let's go.
Oh, well, it's just so easy to do so.
Yeah, it's just so mind blowing. Like, I'm so grateful to have this new lens on life and health, and this hunger to understand and to learn and to be aware of all the resources that God has given us on this earth, right? And
Yeah.
so it's it's kept me at peace this entire time during the start of this whole pandemic. And I just see all the fear. I see it, I sense it in that other people have around this, and I understand why. So we don't want to dismiss the whole everything that's going on right now. There are people that are affected, but what kind of breaks my heart is the people that I see being affected are the ones that haven't been exposed or haven't been able to learn some of the things that we've come across, and I just, it's on my heart for everybody to be able to know like how I was able to, use this thing and get my smell back in an hour. Like I feel me sharing that, and when people share it in this way of kind of natural wellness, it gets swept under the rug or intentionally just kind of removed from the internet, which it's like, that's, where's the heart of that action, so yeah, I'm excited to just, you know dig deeper into all of this. So if y'all have any questions around this, especially a nebulizer, like, should we just go through some nebulizer discussion of like, what could it be used for? Like, you already heard it help me with my smell and taste. Like, what are some other things that the nebulizer would be beneficial for?
Well, depending on what you're nebulizing, it's great for breaking down the biofilm on the lungs, the
Okay.
biofilms in the throats, in the nasal passages, and the mucus.
Mm-hmm.
Nebulizing has so many great benefits. You can nebulize structured water, you can nebulize certain essential oils. You want to double check before you nebulize anything for your own health, but there's certain essential oils, because the nice thing that a nebulizer does is it just breaks down the particles into a finer mist so that it's better absorbed and better used by the body, and it gets us into all of those small places that otherwise we wouldn't be able to get these rich botanicals into.
Yeah, so is that the only way where it can access your is it your lungs and your nasal cavities, or is it when you take stuff through? I guess my understanding was, so when you take stuff orally, it has to pass the digestive system and
It
then it gets
does.
first. Is it, if it goes that route, does it not ever reach those areas, or not as potently?
It depends what you're taking,
Yeah.
but ultimately, you know, you want to get the botanical that you're using, whether it's silver, whether it's an essential oil, what it is that you're using. If you're using an antibacterial, for instance, you want to get that substance in form with the as direct onto the affected area as possible.
Mm.
And I had this call with a gentleman yesterday who's a silver fan, and he had a little bit of nail fungus, and he took some silver gel, put it into a finger cot, and put that on his finger for a number of hours, and the next day it was gone and it hasn't been back. And it was something that was reoccurring with him for a number of years. Women that suffer from vaginal yeast concerns. I had a call with and it's kind of cool because I get to talk to all these people on a daily basis that I just hear about their natural health stories, what they do, how they do it. And so I'm not promoting, treating, curing anything here. I'm just relaying some information that I hope people find helpful.
Yeah.
So one lady that I've been talking to on and off, she's been suffering chronic yeast conditions for years and years and years. And what she does is she takes the applicator that she gets from a Monostat 7, for instance. You know, they've got that tube that you can put the Monostat in. She doesn't like the Monostat for various reasons. So she actually just puts silver in there, inserts that intravaginally, holds that in for a period of time, and she's found that that works better than anything she ever has for herself. So back to nebulizing, back to that, it's about getting that botanical or that herb or whatever that natural product that you're using in contact with the affected area. So back to nebulizing for a sec, whether it's silver, whether it's essential oils, like what it is that you're nebulizing for the purpose that you're nebulizing for, it's getting that substance in contact with the affected area.
Yeah. So that would be like, I had another friend whose mom is a naturopathic doctor. You know, she's has a naturopathic healing practice for decades. And like, she did the same, she had the same experience where she was feeling all those symptoms and feeling sick. And after, like for her, it was after one time of nebulizing, everything went away. And she was just, her mind was blown that she was calling, you know, the office like, hey, I need to order cases of these for my clients. Like, this is amazing. So like, she didn't even know about this, where that kind of blew my mind. Like, you know, that's how obscure this stuff is, yet it shouldn't be. Like, after all the research that I've done, I've come across a lot of things that I'm like, this is the thing that needs to be like shouted from the rooftops, because it's so like universally applicable to so many things, and it doesn't have that like harshness to it, right? Like, we know tea tree and oregano is very good antibacterial, like antimicrobial type of agent, but it burns like crazy, or like, you know, it's super potent. So like, I was like, man, this is like so gentle and so powerful, and but it's so obscure, nobody knows about it. And the only thing people know about this product is what's printed by certain news articles that anchor onto a certain story that was like decades ago of, you know, a guy turning blue, right? Whenever I tell a friend about this stuff, that's the first thing they say. They're like, well, it's potentially dangerous because of this. And I'm like, that guy was drinking a gallon a day, that he made it his home, you know? So
I got a phone call from a journalist last year that was trying to do a hit piece on natural health supplements. And she was emailing me like crazy and phoning me like crazy. And she wanted to have me do an interview to get my perspective on a certain subject in natural wellness. So I didn't agree to do an interview with her, but I agreed to do a phone call with her. And when I phoned her and started talking, I said, okay, before I go on the record, before I say anything to you whatsoever, I said, what's your premises of this article? And are you going to be objective? And she said, I'm going to write what I've been told to write to publish what I need to publish. And I hung up, because it doesn't matter what I would have said. She would have taken it out of context to print her damaging article against natural health supplements, which she was basically being instructed to do. And last year we saw a flurry of activity in the press really going after natural health supplements. And so I just kind of read and saw through that right away and was like, no way, I'm not going to give you a quote that you can spin out of context and sit on Google for the rest of my life.
Wow, that's exactly what they do. And like, and so again, like now that I have this new lens, and I got connected to one of our mutual friends who we won't name, but like after meeting that person and understanding just the richness of information and the value of things he created, and to see the way media try to misinterpret things, right? Like I would read articles, and that's exactly confirming exactly what they were doing. Like, it was this whole cookie cutter statement. Like, there was stuff that seemed like it was just copy and pasted amongst different journals, right? And then there would be stuff presented as fact, like making it seem like it's a fact. And then at the end of that sentence or that paragraph, everything you've read here is just the opinion of the journalist, right? And so people
So
don't
they
read.
cover their ass.
Yeah. So it's basically saying this is not true, but nobody ever reads that part or catches that part unless you're really paying attention and really know the subject that's being discussed. Otherwise, like if I didn't know anything about that person or about that product, like I would be fearful of it. I'd be like, oh man, like this seems like it's bad. And then I'm like, no, it's so good, you know? So it's helped highlight things for me that's helping me just understand the world a little better. And I'm glad.
Well, and what a lot of these, what people aren't recognizing either is there's a tact behind this. So these articles, right? Like everything that we see in our day to day now when we go to the internet is keyword related and search criteria based, right? So these journalists, these publications, these blogs, you know, these resources are able to take these articles and rank them up in Google really fast. So when somebody goes to look up essential oils or silver or anything, if you think of the natural health supplement companies, right? So they're not allowed to heal, treat, cure, or do anything positive for somebody, right? According to the DSHEA Act and according to the FDA. So let's think about just natural wellness for a second from a content standpoint. So if a natural health product company can't be writing anything positive about their products, can't be putting anything out there that could be seen as a healing, treating, curing, diagnosing, you know, anything beneficial for a person, and they're not allowed, right? So there's no positive content being produced for natural health products, right? Because everybody's afraid to do it or say anything because they can be taken down for it, right? So if we look at, so that's from the natural health product company's standpoint, right? The product owner.
Mm-hmm.
If a blogger writes a good article about what they love about natural health supplements and the features and benefits and everything, that's okay, as long as there isn't a tie back to the health products company or an exchange of money for it. If a product company hires a blogger to write a good piece about their article and has healing and treating and curing claims to it, and that person was hired to do so, now the company's in jeopardy for it because they paid to have information created that was non-compliant. So
What if that person made those claims but was never hired by the company and was just so excited about the product?
that's okay.
That's okay, even
That's
though
okay.
they
As long as there isn't,
product.
as long as there isn't an exchange of money for doing it, people can share their testimonials. As soon as there's an exchange of money or remuneration for creating that content, then it can be seen as a piece to promote that company in a healing, treating, curing fashion. But what I'm saying is there's not as much of that, I'm going to say, honest content being produced against the negative content that's being produced. So when we look at Google and we look at the online ecosystem, let's say, of course, Google and these platforms are going to outrank the positive because there's more negative being created. So when somebody lands on, let's say, silver or certain essential oils or certain natural botanicals, they're going to get all the scary information first, which, if page one is a bunch of scary information and quote unquote side effects or harmful information, are you going to go to page two to look for the positive for it? The average layperson isn't. So it's super important that people understand the landscape of the way that information is being presented to them nowadays.
Yeah. Well, that reminds me of a scripture that's like, I'm spirit filled over here. So I always think in terms of scripture nowadays, because it's really kind of like making that connection. Is there's Hosea 4:6 that I was actually reading yesterday, and it's like the people die for a lack of knowledge. And I'm just like, wow, like, does that hit so true these days? Like, it's having that, knowing that there's something more, digging a little deeper, having that will to really persevere, to fully understand the things that we need to know to prosper, right? But as soon as it gets scary, as it gets difficult, like, a lot of people are just so quick to just turn around and shut the door. So yeah, like, I just encourage anybody that's here, whatever scale you're on in this journey of understanding and health, like, dig deeper and don't just listen to us. We're just sharing our personal experiences, which this is our window of what's going on in our world. And hopefully that'll help open some doors and some new insights to you guys. So, like, the whole getting taken down thing is hitting me very close to home too. Like, it's already hit Doug and some friends of ours, where it's crazy to see it on such a firsthand basis, like, because you hear stories of people that you never knew, but now it's like, whoa, that's my friend, or that's someone who's so valuable and has such an amazing soul, and like, they're trying to defame that character. And like, for me, I'm in the diabetes health space, so my whole journey is tied to the disease that was labeled by the CDC as a pandemic prior to this whole pandemic. And this disease is fueling the current pandemic. And so I'm trying to help support people to get information, to get knowledge that we acquired, that we had to search for, that we had to dig for, and it wasn't presented to us by the normal, diabetes Western medicine ways. And so with that, I have this amazing testimony my husband has, and we're working with people who are getting amazing results, getting off all their medications, right?
That's
But
excellent.
they're shutting us down, right? Like, I try and do Facebook ads, and, there's hurdles every single round we go, and
Well,
it's constantly changing, and it's discouraging. But thankfully, I have this like passion lit under me that I'm just like, I have to persevere in this and figure it out for myself so that others can do the same thing. Because if we just can get shot down after one attempt, then that's what happens to all the information. It just stays behind that wall. So we got to dig deep, people, and support each other and share our truths, no matter how hard it may be sometimes, and no matter how crazy I may sound. I preface it. I know this is going to sound crazy, but this really happened in my life, and you need to know about it. So
Totally. And here's an article that is being suppressed heavily, but everybody should go to right now. And it's science-article/science/article/ABS/PII. And it's a full-blown scientific review of, go there and find out, because I'll go to jail for saying it online.
oh, snaps.
And it's very interesting. I dropped you the link in Skype.
Oh, good.
There's so much research being done on oh man, they're taking this one down too. So any natural botanical that has any, not even with the current pandemic, but even the cold and flu, now the information is being suppressed. It's crazy.
So crazy.
I've been reading this article for a while now, and now it's gone.
Oh, really? Did you save them? You have to save all these archives.
Oh, I've got a bunch of them that I've screenshot and collected.
Yeah.
So, believe it or not, Wuhan, China, did a study in 2014 on the effects of silver and coronaviruses,
Mm.
and they blew it out of the water. Like the information was absolutely fantastic, and I'll kind of leave it at that.
Mm.
Um,
Wuhan, huh?
yeah, but we're just, like I say, every time I go to look at this information here, and sorry if I'm looking off screen, I've just got a number of screens and information there beside me. It's just mind blowing that the truth is being uncovered. And like, people can choose their own truth. If people choose that they want to go the natural health route, that's their decision. If people decide that they want to go the conventional medicine route, that's their decision as well, right? You and I, as we have these conversations, we like the natural health route. We're not demonizing the conventional medicine route. It's just the decision that you and I have chosen that we don't believe is right for us, right?
Well, I feel there
So
needs to be a balance, right? And so, like, the traditional medicine was very helpful for me during my pregnancies, both of them, right? Like having
yeah,
emergency C-sections and all of that. Like, there's a,
that's surgery though, not
no,
medicine.
I guess, yeah, that's not bad. But, like, and even with insulin, especially type 1 diabetes, a lot of them are insulin dependent, and that's required for their lifespan. So, where I have been observing from that lens is like, at least give us the full option, right? Like, don't, like, they're just funneling people into this one place without
Mhm.
having the full balance of awareness of how to really tackle this. And if you're only given one half of the picture, you're kind of left with some pieces missing, and therefore you get kind of, it's just this downward spiral where people don't know how to get out of. Like, people that I've been working with, like, the testimonials, just like, it blesses my heart so much, because people feel trapped in their bodies, right? They're just like, I didn't know what to do. I listened to everything that was told of me, and I ate the right foods and all of these things, where they thought they were doing everything, and there was still more that they could, there was different options that could have totally changed and shifted everything. So having that balance, like, we're, again, we don't want to hate on anybody. We're here out of love. We love everybody, but we feel like there's a side of the story that's being intentionally suppressed. Therefore, we're a little more one-sided, trying to bring that to the forefront, because
Totally.
y'all already know the other stuff. This stuff it's crazy. Research is being taken down. Like, I don't know if this is correct or not, but I'm sure, Doug, you'll know, is like, a friend of ours who will not be named published a cure for malaria. And I was looking for that, and I think that got taken down. Is that,
That's all been taken down.
yeah, like, the published cure for malaria just taken down? Like, why?
Double
What?
blind tested, published in a number of medical journals, recognized globally, and gone
Yeah.
because it was natural.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, people in higher up organizations think mosquito nets and vaccines are the choice of that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's hard to be presenting this natural information when you just keep getting cut off at the knees on the science being removed out
Mhm.
there. And not only the science being removed, but just, we want to keep this going to be able to educate people. So if we're being a little bit cryptic in what we're saying, it's only because we want to be able to present this content in a fashion that doesn't get taken down or suppressed. And hopefully, in the things that we're not saying, you're reading between the lines for what we are trying to say. But we're not trying to hold information back or be shady in what we're talking about. It's strictly in a way of just trying to present information that can stick around for a while.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, we see so many people that are, not even talking conspiracy theory, but they're just expressing concern in the way that the world is going right now, and how that's affecting their personal lives. And we as human beings want to try to understand what's best for our bodies, what's best for our families, and how to offer that. And it's sad that just this absolute global quest for power and money is enslaving us into only seeing one narrative now, right? Like you go back thousands of years to Egyptian times and Roman times and Babylonian times. You know, there's been natural doctors and natural health practices forever, right? And yes, they were primitive, and yes, they didn't have the science to understand why these things did what they did, but they had enough of an understanding to know, for instance, we go back 10,000 years for silver. You know, the Egyptians were throwing silver coins in milk vats and water because they knew it would purify it and it wouldn't grow bacteria. Science didn't tell them anything more than that, but they had an understanding that, hey, this is working, right? Where do you think silverware and silver plates and silver trays came from? You know, it could have been gold, it could have been copper, it could have been lead, it could have been a number of different metals, right, that could have made these products. And then yes, they did in many cases, but why did silver raise to the highest ranks and the affluent people use that for eating and serving food with? Well, because they realized it had antimicrobial properties to it. The food didn't go bad, it lasted longer. So if you could afford to use those tools in those days, then you did, right? So how do we, you mentioned tea tree oil earlier. Like, we look at the early trade routes, in Europe. Well, they were trading herbs, they were trading natural botanicals that were grown in each of these different regions or mined in each of these different regions, for health and wellness. Right? So what we're seeing here is we're seeing thousands of years of human civilization completely wiped out of the history books because it doesn't fit the current narrative and they can't make money on it. Mm-hmm. Right? But they weren't trading antibiotics, they weren't trading metformin, they weren't trading Viagra, they weren't trading all of these kind of substances, even 150 years ago. They were still trading rich natural botanicals.
Yeah. One, they didn't need all those things either because they were in a more healthy, chemical-free
well, that's right, because big food hadn't taken control yet either. So not only were they trading rich herbs, spices, and botanicals for health, they were also trading, they didn't even know they were producing organically produced foods then, but they were, because they were producing whole foods that were naturally grown without pesticides and chemicals. So quote unquote, they were, trading organic produce back then as well. So if we look at, okay, yes, in many of those civilizations in the past, people may have lived shorter lives, but they lived fuller lives than the sickness and degeneration that's happening to people in the last 100 years since we've just become so chemically dependent.
So what do you say to those people that are just like, well, I trust the science? So, like there's people that are, or I only trust doctors or whoever it is. Like, that's kind of one of the responses I would get from friends, or, where I would try to kind of like gently introduce some of the stuff, and they're, like, where they only trust the science, but their science is only tied to a certain portion of science, and they're ignoring the other science that is intentionally being taken down over time. What do you say to those people?
It depends on the situation. It depends on how open-minded somebody is to something. And you've got to get through somebody of taking the emotion out of the equation and say, okay, if you're going to trust the science, what science are you looking at? Right? And are you open to exploring both options.
Mhm.
And I find so often nowadays that people have been so um, information flows so easily nowadays that people will not spend a lot of time researching. They'll take the path of least resistance, and what they seen last they consider as gospel.
Mhm.
So it's I don't try to win an argument with anybody. I don't try to fight with anybody. um, I'll try to always look at both sides of the equation with somebody. So then you're basing whatever the outcome of that is on fact or as much factual information, but you got to take the emotion out of it. It can't be an emotional I think, I feel, I anything. It's facts prove to me such and such, right?
Yeah.
And that's always sort of how I try to work with people. But I find that people in a majority of people that I talk to, their gut tells them one thing, science tells them another, and they're confused,
Mm.
right? Especially in an aging population,
Mhm.
that it's hard because you're dealing with a trust factor here too. So if I look at somebody in my parents' age group, their whole life they've been taught to trust the doctor,
Mhm.
right? So me focusing more in the natural health realm, right? And in our age generation, right? And even more so the younger age generation, we're seeing this a real strong shift back to natural, right? And a craving for, why are we seeing organic markets popping up and gaining so much momentum? Why are we seeing naturopathic clinics growing? Like, why are we seeing this essentially explosion of natural health growing? It's being fueled by the younger generation that's in their late 20s, early 30s right now, that have, I think it's a subconscious thing where they've seen this deterioration in health in older people, and they've done enough research to realize that they're healthy or they're fit. They've researched to realize, okay, these chemicals and these things that are coming to me aren't good for me. What am I going to do as a result of that? Right. So I find it, considering which generational gap you're talking to has a different viewpoint and a different trust factor on who it is. Right. And the sad thing is with this cancel culture and narratives that are being fed to us now, people are almost being bullied without being bullied, right? To form a certain opinion. And I believe that that certain opinion is made up of a very small minority of people, but it's getting the majority of the press and the majority of the voice,
Mhm.
right?
Absolutely.
And it makes it more difficult.
Yeah.
But I think people are starting to wake up. They may not be waking up vocally or waking up in a point where they're saying anything, but I think human nature in a lot of people is just kind of, there's that discussion you have in your head, right? And the discussion that you have in your head with yourself is a lot different than the discussion that you have vocally with somebody, or put out publicly, right?
Mhm.
So I think that the discussion that people are having in their head is, this doesn't feel right.
Mhm.
What's being promoted to us, what's being told to us, the agendas that are being pushed on us, this doesn't feel right. And I think there's a lot of confusion in people of not understanding on how to take that conversation that they're having in their minds to having with somebody else, or having in a more of a public setting, in fear that that minority is going to cause damage to them if they express how they truly feel.
Mhm. Oh yeah. No, it's I mean, it's taken me a long time to put myself out there with all of this stuff where it's like, I know some people are going to have their judgments and other people will be like, oh my God, this is super fascinating.
Mhm.
And like, as I've started putting myself out there, I'm having people, that I'm connecting to that are sharing their stories and getting their transformations. And like, that's what they say. They're like, this whole time, like, I only had that one option, right? That's all they knew. And going down that road for decades, like people 30, 40 plus years, just having this same experience, they're like, I just knew there had to be a better way. But there's this mix of information on the internet where any we went through that discussion last week where there's natural products, but some of them that aren't authentic, right? And so
Yeah.
like there's people that target people, especially with the diabetes diagnosis, where they would just target that niche of people, but not with authentic things. And so that kind of like made it so confusing. And then finally coming across a solution that's authentic, high quality, that gives them all that support. They're just like, whoa, like in 1 week, I can have a shift better than I've had in the past 30 years. Like it's mind blowing. And that's kind of just like, people know in their heart it shouldn't be this way. And I think the way the standard progression is, like everyone I've been encountering, like even the younger people, like there's younger ages of like autoimmune issues and certain like things that are happening earlier now than they used to. And so
Mhm.
that kind of pushes people to start paying more attention. And when the just whatever they're prescribed isn't working, or it works for a little bit, but then there's a down the line kind of side effect that they're not enjoying, that they're just kind of desperate and they have to seek other options. And that's where they go down all these different rabbit holes, But I think we're in a, like you said, a shift. And it's kind of exciting to me where I think this whole suppression of information that I've been witnessing, like I feel it's highlighting a lot of stuff and helping me navigate this informational world in the interwebs that we find ourselves on. And I just feel it's going to be so obvious that as long as enough of us keep just reaching out for the truth and just keep on that path and sharing that truth with others. So it has to be this kind of ripple effect where that's why we're here. Like we have to
Totally.
share this information because otherwise nobody else is going to. Or there's people going to get shut down and they're going to give up or whatever it is. So it's really like, all right, let's put our little army jacket on, whatever it is, and suit up and let's go.
Yeah, and we're learning how to, I'm always thinking like 10 steps ahead of, what's coming down the pipeline as far as these platforms that we post content to, what's going to be the next thing that gets somebody suspended. So trying to put this information together in a way that it sticks around for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And we could go super deep, we could go super targeted on some of these subjects, but then this content is going to be removed. And it's sad, like in a world of free speech where, you know we're not condemning any company, we're not condemning any product, we're just, you and I are just having an open discussion right now on what we feel about things.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, what we feel about things nowadays can be deemed as inappropriate or hate speech, or, whatever it wants to be classified as that day, right?
Yeah.
And it sucks.
Yeah. That's what happened to me on Facebook. That was one of the things. It's like they put health and wellness in the same category and discipline as hate speech. I was
Yeah,
like, how are those two things similar in any way? It's just bizarro world. That's what I call these times, bizarro world. But hey, we know how to play.
totally, totally. And we know that there's an agenda that's working towards certain outcomes with this, and we're just trying to protect our families and trying to stay healthy. And with the best understanding that we can with the tools that are in front of us. And is not being a, a medical professional or a naturopathic doctor. You and I are just curious, and we're exploring curiosity based on what we learn throughout the week and what we learn talking to people, hearing their stories, what are they doing, and taking and grooming that information so that we can help other people with what we're learning.
Yeah. And so that kind of, I guess before we close out here, like, why don't you share kind of what we titled our channel, A Case for Health. So, it might be kind of cryptic to some people. So what does that mean? Like, what does A Case for Health mean to you? And why did that motivate you to start this channel together with your homegirl Delia here?
Well, there was a book I read called The Case for Christ, and it was written by an atheist journalist out of Chicago whose wife became a Christian, and he was dead set against it. So he set out to write a hit piece essentially on Christianity and God, and ended up not being able to disprove God or not being able to disprove the resurrection. And he had to come to a point where he either accepted that there was truth there or he had to deny it. But as a journalist, in trying so hard to discredit something, he came to prove to himself his belief. So if I look at how we came up with the Case for Christ, it's that same thing. Like, you and I aren't medical professionals, right? And nor do we profess to be. We've both been sick. We've had family members that have been sick. Like, we've kind of grown up in this say, quote unquote, pharmaceutical system, right? And we've seen enough fallout from that, let's say, with people that are close to us and in our lives, that we're just on this quest to understand and create this case for natural health, right? And we're not standing behind any particular product. We're not standing behind any particular company. We're not endorsed by anybody. We're just doing this because we've got some time to be able to read, research, talk to people through the weeks, and bring a message that we're learning to people. People can take it or leave it or do whatever they want with it. But we're just trying to be as real and authentic, as truthful as we can in the information that we're bringing forward. And I personally hope that it helps people and, gets them to think about what they're doing in their own lives today. And if this is inspiring and if this is helping people, or, just good information, then mission accomplished.
Yeah. Well, and I love that. So the book, the author of that book, that's true journalism right there. Not like the journalist that was calling you. So what a difference in journalism, right? Where you had someone calling you who basically is like, I don't care what you say, I'm going to frame it this way because I've been told to do this. I don't care if it's a truth or a lie, like, that's all they're doing. And so you're not being fed the truth. It's not an open mind. It's not doing the due diligence, right, of the proper research and understanding. And then you have this author of the book, Case for Christ, where he's a journalist who has his set idea, but he still wants to go through all the data to make sure to confirm his idea. So he went in with the intent of confirming, but was open to the truth. And therefore, he found the truth, which was opposite of what he thought. So that's such a clear example of what we've been on and what we're trying to share, where we've both experienced both sides, right? And one side definitely gave us a lot more favor in results. And so that's why we just want to be transparent, be honest, open up this dialogue. We're talking about some obscure things. Feel free to ask us about these obscure things. I know sometimes we're cryptic, so feel free to comment, or we have a Facebook group that we are opening that you can join, and we can just keep the convo going. So as far as this is our second go around of filming, so we're getting a little motion, getting a feel for how this is going to go. And I guess what to expect next is we are filming these kind of in a just kind of podcast style setting where we're just going long form. We're going to have a discussion, whatever gets inspired, just like we didn't plan on talking about nebulizers today, but guess what? We talked a lot about them because that's the inspiration of flow that happened. So we're going to do this every week, and it's going to be cut. We're going to put the full video available to you if you want to sit and hang out with us for the whole time, but we're also going to cut it up into little segments. So that's kind of the content flow that we have right now that we're anticipating. So that's really it. So any final words, Doug, or anything that you want to let them know that's going to happen next?
No, this is good. Stick around for the next ones. We look forward to bringing you more information, and thank you so much. This has been great.